Hi, my name is Joe Foy, and right now I'm in the Argenta Johnson's Landing Face Forest. It's a forest with a long name, but it's a beautiful interior old-growth forest, and it's why I'm here today, because it's also an endangered forest. This forest has a logging plan, an approved logging plan on it, and we need to work together to get the logging plan stopped and the forest protected. Now, the Argenta Johnson's Landing Face Forest does have a long name. The reason is it's loved by the communities that surround it. On the one side is the community of Argenta, on the other side the community of Johnson's Landing, but people come from all over the West Kootenays to hike through this forest, to travel up into the entranceway of the Purcell Wilderness Conservancy Provincial Park. It's a fabulous provincial park in the southern part of the province. It protects all manner of terrific wildlife. Here on the lowlands, on the face of the mountains leading down to Kootenay Lake, there's a 6,000 hectare area that was not protected when the Conservancy was originally created. That's a real shame. It contains some of the most important forests to protect. They're the lowest elevation forests. Now, some of this area has been logged and roaded, but thankfully some has not. And the old forest I'm standing in is really, really important for people to enjoy, but also for wildlife to survive in. Now, my good friend Gary Deers earlier took me out in this forest. Gary lives around these parts and loves this place. With Gary Deers right now on the hunt for big trees.
Yeah, here's one with a really heavy bark, like you were saying, similar to Douglas fir anyway.
Wow, man, I look at that and I think, if I don't look up, I think I'm in a Douglas fir forest.
Yeah.
So are larch fire resistant?
Yeah, they are.
So
They get one of the thickest barks. Like, look how thick this bark is. One of the thickest barks in the interior, and they'll often survive the forest fires. This one obviously survived the last forest fire. You know, it's a good sized one with forking at the top. You see when we were coming up the road, it was similar, and it just lined with woodpecker holes from bottom to top.
There's a beauty over here. The difference between them and Doug firs, they look like they get quite cylindrical.
Oh yeah,
Like a spruce a little bit.
Yeah. They're not so branched lower down. They're just like they go straight up and. Yeah.
So we're in a class 8 forest, and classes have to do with age. It's a Forest Service designation. And Gary, here in the interior, tell me a bit about what a class 8 forest is all about.
Well, class 8 forest, I believe it's 140, 250 years old. And, you know, I find these fairly impressive trees, actually. I mean, this one's actually quite a bit older. When you talk about a class 8 forest, most of the trees will be that age. But within that forest, there can be trees like this one, which is probably several hundred years old, probably 300 some years old. You see this larch with a thick bark. It definitely survived the last fire. Fire-based ecosystem. And so fires will go through here every now and then. And these big ones just keep surviving. And you can see the lichens on the tree. Caribou use lichens in the winter. That's all they eat in the winter. They come up here, and the only mammal that goes up in the winter, they have the big hooves and they sit on top of the snow. They stand on top of the snow, and then the lichen blows off these trees, or sometimes there's lower branches and they get the lichen, and that's how they survive all winter. And so these forests are very important ecologically. When you think about the endangered species that are here, there's only less than 30 mountain caribou now in the Kootenays, south of the Trans-Canada. And caribou were found here foraging just 2 winters ago. And I mean, we're talking about the Kootenays. This is a huge area, and they chose this place to be a couple winters ago. This very cut block they were on. And somehow they're still allowed to cut this forest, which is just astounding to me in this day and age. But here we are, still witnessing this forest. There's a cutting permit on this cut block right now, and approved cutting permit. And so it's a definitely endangered forest here, and it really needs to be put into the Purcell Wilderness Conservancy Provincial Park and protected for all time, so that caribou can survive and all the other mammals that depend on forests like this.
Now the good news is the province is considering putting logging moratoriums on endangered old-growth forests. Now this kind of old-growth forest is very different from the old-growth forest that you will find on southern Vancouver Island or the lower mainland. The trees are smaller here, it's in the interior, but it's vitally important that we protect all the diversity of old-growth forests, the length and breadth of BC, and that's why the Argenta Johnson's Landing Face Forest is a prime candidate, we believe, to be a moratorium area, so the province can go forward in partnership with the Indigenous communities who have always lived in their territories to decide the best way to protect this forest and add it to the legacy of all the other protected areas that have been created in this province. It's very important that the province and Indigenous nations work together on this. And so that's why I'm asking you to write today to the provincial government and ask them to make sure that the Argenta Johnson's Landing Face Forest is granted the protection it needs, to make sure that this forest is given a logging moratorium so that the right decisions can be made. And so I think this is a good chance to finally get this 6,000 hectare beautiful area protected. Will you do that today? We'd really appreciate it. My name is Joe Foy. I'm with the Wilderness Committee, and if you can afford it, a donation would really help too. The donations, the organization is basically fueled by donations, and it's what allows us to get out on the land and put a spotlight on places like the Argenta Johnson's Landing Forest that need and deserve protection, so that we can pass them on to future generations of wildlife and future generations of people. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.